Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2023 film Infinity Pool. It's a Brandon Cronenberg film, so I was excited because I've liked his other films, Possessor and Antiviral. And actually, I think I like Antiviral the most. And then Possessor, unfortunately for me personally, I think Infinity Pool is his weakest offering. Now, I'm going to tell you what I do and don't like about this film, but this is no spoilers. But I will be spoiling some stuff from like a subtext thematic sequence aspect at the very end, but I'll prompt you before I end up doing that if you want to turn it off. But other than that, I'm not going to tell you like the events of the film or anything like that. So a lot of people I know were excited for this film to come out. It did look really cool. A lot of people loved Possessor when it came out. If you're a person who liked Possessor and even this film and you have not seen Antiviral by Brandon Cronenberg, 100% gotta check out Antiviral. It is so good. And the lead actor, Caleb Landry Jones, does a phenomenal job. He is a vastly underrated actor, in my opinion. Cronenberg's also underrated, though. Again, written and directed by Brandon Cronenberg. Has Alexander Skarsgård in this, who you might know from such things as True Blood, Godzilla vs. Kong, The Northman, and some episodes of Succession, which I have not watched yet, but I need to get to. I will. As well as Mia Goth, who has been like the big it actress of the time right now in horror. She's been in Pearl, X, Marrowbone, and Suspiria more recently. Synopsis for this film. Okay. It is about a couple at a resort, and the guy, played by Alexander Skarsgård's character, is basically kind of down on his life. You know, he's down. I wouldn't say he's down on his luck because he married rich, but he's not feeling great about his life because he was an author who wrote a book some years ago that barely anyone bought, but he's just been living off the money of his wife. So he kind of goes to this resort as a place of getting inspiration. Then he runs into these other people who live there. They go out off compound, which you're not supposed to do because it's a very dangerous place, apparently, once you go off compound. And something happens, and this is a horror film, and things progress, and it's Brandon Cronenberg. And as someone on social media I know said, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You do see some body horror-ish type stuff. He also throws in a lot of kind of like trippy sequences, which I know someone else who I saw through Letterboxd was talking about how they love the trippy sequences in theater. When I watched this, I watched it through Vudu. I'm sure a lot of people know about Vudu, but for anyone who doesn't, it's owned by Fandango, and you can rent or buy films just to stream at home. So that's where I got it. And it wasn't too expensive. It was like $15 for buying it, which I think is cheap, especially for a very well-shot film. All right. Obviously, it is well-shot, and it's well-directed, and it's well-acted. All those things. A lot of really great technical stuff in this film, as I'm sure a lot of people going in really did assume, because it's Brandon Cronenberg. He's already established himself as being able to do very well, plus Alexander Skarsgård, Mia Goth, everyone knows they can really act super well. So there. There's something very early that may have people yelling at the screen. It's kind of one of those things where like people will be like, don't do this, or you're stupid, you're doing this. It's one of those types of things. I don't actually yell at the screen in those instances, but in my mind, I'm kind of like, it's one of those moments, you know? One of those moments. Some people may actually do the yelling at the screen, but I don't know. Just saying. I do think that Mia Goth is a very good actress, but I do have to say that I do not like when she does accents, because they seem to be done in a very over-the-top manner, and they end up becoming annoying to me personally. This is, a personal thing. I know I had put out my review for Pearl, and I did not like the way that she did the accent in that. I felt like it was very over-the-top and annoying to me. Same thing here. She does an accent, exactly comes across the same way for me, but someone had commented on my Pearl review and was just like, I think she actually did a great job with it. So it is a personal thing, just know that, although some other people watching this may feel the same. But she does a really good job with acting. Like, line delivery is really good. She shows emotion really well. Like, she knows what she's doing. I just don't want her to do accents, and then I will enjoy it a lot more. About 20 minutes into the film, there's a scene that is like, okay. You're literally, like, I'm not going to tell you, but around 20 minutes, pay attention. There's a scene I was like, okay. And it's kind of like, what are we getting into? Although, if you know Brandon Cronenberg stuff, you should feel that way going into the film. What are we getting into? Because he tends to do some out there-ish stuff. Like, his films are typically kind of like horror sci-fi in a sense, like kind of light-ish sci-fi, but horror sci-fi. Drama, thriller, yeah. Some of the characters don't feel very realistic and are one-dimensional. I don't like the characters in this film. I don't think they're that well written. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and say they're poorly written characters. The dialogue is good, and the way they interact with each other is good, and that feels realistic for what's created here, but the characters don't feel realistic at all. They're not very likable. It's just, I think it's a character fail, in my opinion. Some people may look at some of these characters and be like, oh, I like what's going on with the character. I like how they're kind of like reacting. But I think a lot of that has to do with the acting and not how the characters were written. I think they're poorly written, in my opinion. But like I said, dialogue is well done. I would like the score to be toned down a lot. It does go overly hard too often. Again, that's one of my personal pet peeves. I don't like it when a score is basically screaming at you, trying to tell you how to feel, especially in instances where it doesn't feel like a whole lot's going on. And it's like yelling at you. It's like, listen, nothing is happening here. Can you just let me chill out? And when we get to something where something's actually happening, put the music in, tone it down a little bit. Let's crank it down, take it off 11. Just saying, one of my things. About 30 minutes into the film, there's a weird but intriguing concept introduced. Now, that's one of the big things with Cronenberg films, is he's always got this one core concept that ends up getting thrown in the film, and it's usually like a sci-fi-ish concept. So I love the introduction of the concept. I love the possibilities that it opens. I do think that where he goes with it was not the best direction. You know, he had a lot of ways that he could have gone with that concept, and I think it ended up being a bit boring, in my opinion. And overall, I felt like this film ended up being a little bit boring for me personally. I wanted more story. I wanted a lot more depth to it. I wanted him to explore that core concept in a more interesting and meaningful way. But then again, you know, other people may feel differently. The film moves kind of slowly. You do stay engaged a lot of times because the atmosphere is really good, the camera work is really good, the acting is really good. So those things, you know, keep you engaged, but you do realize that the pacing is not the best, and there definitely are times where it really does drag. So those are issues with the film, in my opinion. But then again, I kind of assumed it would be this way because that's how Cronenberg's done it. Like, Possessor was way too long. There were times where it really did drag, even though overall I really liked it. The film also has a pretty mysterious feel to it that keeps you wondering where it's going next. Again, very Brandon Cronenberg. He does that with all his films. You do get to a point where you're like, yup, this is a Cronenberg film. That goes back to the whole, like, apple doesn't fall far from the tree thing. And if you've seen Antiviral and Possessor, you'll know, like, you'll get that feeling. It'll hit a point where you're just like, yes, now we've crossed into the territory where this is very distinctly Cronenberg. Yes, and that's a good thing, obviously. The film definitely hits parts where it drags, like I said. Some of the dialogue does come off as almost nonsensical because it does end up being random. I know I said for the most part, I said that the dialogue was really good, but there really are these moments where the dialogue feels like it's trying to be too abstract, and it's trying to do something like odd and different with a character because they're saying these things, but it starts to feel like it's nonsense. You know, like it doesn't really even pertain to what's going on. It doesn't even matter for what's going on in the film at that time, and it doesn't like add anything. So there were those types of moments, another issue that I had with it. In addition to me having a problem with Mia Goth's accents, I thought her character ends up getting very annoying. In the beginning, like the character, was very interested to see where she goes. I think she got way too annoying. She won't shut up, and it seems like when she's talking a lot of the times, it's excessive drivel. It's just like nonsensical, excessive drivel. And I don't like it. This goes back to, I don't like the characters. I don't like the characters, and it goes back to those moments with some of the dialogue where it's coming off as nonsensical and not adding to what's going on. There is a good amount of cool, messed up imagery that I assumed would be happening from a Brandon Cronenberg film, so I was happy with some very messed up, disturbing, kind of grotesque imagery that happens. So if you're looking for that, it's definitely there. And I feel like the film actually ends pretty flat, unfortunately. I thought it was going to have more of an impactful ending, like, an antiviral or Possessor, but yeah, it's pretty flat. It just kind of ended, and I was just kind of like, oh, okay, it's over. I thought we were going to have, like, a bigger point made out of this film, a bigger impact in the ending. It just kind of, like, ends on a whimper, in my opinion. So, it wasn't hugely into it. It's still a good film, don't get me wrong, but when you look at this film and compare it to the other stuff he's done, it's 100% his weakest. I hope that does not continue. I hope he doesn't, keep going downward, but we'll see. So anyone who doesn't want to know, the thematic subtext type stuff, go ahead and stop right now, and then I have two things that I'm going to say. So here we go. I do think that this film is a commentary on the excesses of the rich and how everyone else ends up being forfeit to their will. I think it's a very timely thing. It's something that's been seen in film quite a bit. Rich people and their excesses, they have it all, and they get treated a different way, and everyone else kind of suffers with that. It also speaks to societal enabling of the worst parts of people who are rich, and how that ends up encouraging them to be even worse people. That has also popped up in some horror films before, so I think Hostel shows some of that to a degree, in a very different way. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on kind of like the subtextual thematic stuff, but would love to hear everyone else's thoughts. You can go ahead and put spoiler comments down in the comments if you want to. Let me know, love it, hate it, in between. Give me like a sentence or two letting me know why you did or did not like it or are indifferent with it. So out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm going 3 stars. Not a bad rating, but not a great rating. I wanted to like it a lot more, but it's a good film. It's just, I wanted a whole lot more, and everything else I laid out that I thought was a problem. So 3 stars on this one. Do me a favor, hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate that. Also, hit the notification bell button, because then you'll know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing 3 or 4 a week at this point. So, regardless, thank you very much for watching this video, and until next time, keep it brutal.